So what should we not be doing? What are the things you'd be like, oh, these are the top 2 or 3 things that you've seen in your career? It's like, yeah, if a manager does that, that's going to be a bad onboarding experience and likely or could likely result in that employee deciding to find another home. What are some of those bad things we want to avoid?
I would say, one of them that you mentioned earlier is the do as I say, not as I do. And sometimes, from a generational standpoint, there are people in certain generations that they're not aware that they're doing that. But millennials, they pick up on it pretty quickly. And so just being very mindful of, are you asking something that you're not doing yourself? And that is, I see a lot of when it comes to issues with managers and employees. That's really kind of that number one thing, because now it really kind of creates that distrust. And once you lose that trust, you really lost the employee. They're checking in every day, but they're not fully engaged, and you're not getting the best out for your team, your department, or the business.
So being aware that you're being watched and being aware that your actions need to match to what you're expecting of them.
Yes.
So if you're expecting them to, if they see a piece of trash on the ground, pick it up, then you should be looking for pieces of trash on the ground and picking them up yourself.
Yes. Sometimes leaders fall into the trap of, I am here to direct people. And the leader that people really respect is the leader that can truly understand not only who you are, your role, and empathize with you. That's the leader that someone respects. And so it's truly understanding and just being aware of that. And like I said, it's not like leaders have bad intentions. They don't. But whether it's generational or whatever, it's really just being more mindful of that and how we show up every day.
Yeah. Are there any other things you would suggest we avoid?
I would say if you are a manager that is not big on communication, you want to correct that. You want to make sure that you are communicating as much as possible. What I've seen, and this happens in a lot of organizations, is that the communication stops at the top. It's where all the strategy happens and all the plans happen, and those folks right there, they're getting the communication, but it's not being cascaded down. And because we're going 100 miles an hour, but we have to carve out that time, be very intentional, make sure that we are, because the more I'm able to communicate to you, that also really helps with the engagement.
Yeah, totally. I love it. And again, the other point in all this today that I want to make sure that we don't overlook is you're very thoughtful about how not only you create that strong onboarding experience, but what I think, and a lot of people don't do that. Most people don't do that. But then you also go one step further and say, and how can I tie their experience to what we want our ideal customer experience to be? Yes. So they're experiencing the product or service in a way that then they can translate that to others.
Yes, and it doesn't matter what industry you work in, whether you're in the hospitality industry, the retail industry, the sports industry, media industry, whether it's your fans or your customers or your clients, it's important to have a great employee experience in order for you to have a great fan experience, customer experience, and client experience. And there has been research and studies done on this to where it results in higher earnings in every industry. And so it is so important that we really focus on that employee experience. And that's where manager development training comes from, and leadership development and training, because I always say people don't know what they don't know. And that doesn't mean they have a bad heart or they have bad intentions, but that's where the training and development comes from to help them with that awareness.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to, that's great. Like you put a perfect bow on this at the end. So I ask all my guests this question: what's one life hack you have for us on how we can live our life more free from dysfunction, whether we're talking about personal life or professional life? What's one life hack you have for us?
My life hack is really around empathy and compassion when we are communicating and interacting with each other. It is not to take it personal, but to also have some empathy where you can understand where the other person is coming from. And that's whether it's in your personal life or your professional life.
Yeah.